I want to draw your attention to the chat box. I have put the contact URL for Hoarders Canada. You do need to be in Canada. In the beginning, you need to be in the roughly Toronto and environ area, just to start. Then, if the show is picked up for more than 8 episodes, then they will branch out probably to all across Canada. So the first www.hoarderscanada, all one word, casting, included in Hoarders Canada casting.com, is if you would like to be considered for a spot to be one of the participants, where some therapist, yet to be determined, and a cleaner who they promise me will not, well, they're sort of trying to promise me will not be the person who is doing the intervention with you. Certainly, I'm lobbying heavily for cleaners are not qualified to deal with another individual's mental health issues. So that's for casting if you want to be part of the show. If you just want to kind of track what's happening, are they expanding? They have a Facebook page as well, where all of the progress, no doubt, will be laid out. And so here's something, though, that I really want to stress. The casting crew, I've trained them. I've oriented them a very, very deep orientation about hoarding disorder, about what it's like to need help, the kind of help, what constitutes a respectful, compassionate, responsible discussion with someone who's living with hoarding. And when they interview you, if you want to apply, I want you to interview them too. I want you to come with your own questions about what would participating look and feel like, and what are their guarantees that you come out of this experience better off, and who's going to take responsibility for compassionate editing, because a lot can happen in the exchange. All right, a lot can happen that feels perfectly on track, but what is their responsibility, and do they understand that however they edit that program, it's your life and the perception of you that is going to be the end product, and that goes down in history. All right, so I want you to feel perfectly comfortable, please, making sure that you come with your own questions that protect your Carrie, am I right in thinking that there's probably isn't after the slash? Let me read it out to you as I see it here, okay? Because I am the world's worst typist. All right. So for the website, and this is for casting, for you to participate, www. all one word, Hoarders, HOARDERS, Canada, CANADA, casting, CASTING.com. For the Facebook page, it's https://www.facebook.com/ all one word, Hoarders Canada, but the H in Hoarders is capitalized. The C in Canada, even though it's all one word, is capitalized. Okay? Okay. All right. Is that what I have there? No. Okay. Hafsa, can you go back and erase that chat or whatever and correct it? Thank heavens for Hafsa. Now I'm going to turn this phone off because no doubt it will ring in the middle of the podcast. All right, everybody. Today, I'm really excited about today because today is a completely open forum. I have nothing but my experience and my coaching strategies to offer you in the way of information. This is all about you. This is all about what your questions are. I don't have perfect answers, but I do have a lot of experience. And so I'm going to start with, I think there were 5 or 6 remaining questions from last time. And so we'll start with that, but I want you to continue to add to the chat as I'm talking, as things occur to you, okay? All right, so last time asked, any tips on how to reduce or prevent ping-ponging one's focus from room to room when starting a major declutter? All right, so the ping pong, I'm assuming, is that your focus changes. And when you start to work in one area, probably because something you're dealing with relates to something in another area, or in your efforts to take that thing and put it away, you end up being intrigued or triggered by seeing something that, oh, this needs it too. So that's very, very normal. All right. It's even more normal if you're anywhere at all, minor to major, on the spectrum of attention deficit disorder. And it doesn't even have to be a disorder. You don't have to tick enough boxes for it to be a disorder, or attention deficit hyperactivity behavior to disorder. Very normal. It also probably increases with any anxiety that you have, any confusion that you have, even if you're not on the spectrum of either one of those disorders. It's just human nature to notice. You would have to be extremely well resourced as far as focus. And that is not hand in glove with the mindset most people are in when they're doing a major declutter. So what would be some hints? First of all, when you're working on an area, let's say the living room, all right, or the dining room, and this is maybe where the television is. And so maybe you bring some food in and you're eating while you're in your office or in the living room in front of the TV. And you're enjoying the program. So you put the dishes down, you put the cutlery down, and you put a glass down, and then it just keeps adding. All right. And so come the next day, as you're going to solve the pile on the dining room table, for instance, you start picking up items. All right. As you pick up those items, what I'm going to suggest is that in advance of that, you choose one area that you're going to stage things. So whatever you're currently working on, say it's a basket, say it's those dishes, say it's clothing, say it's anything, you take those things to your staging area, all right? And then a little later on in the questions, there's a question about getting sort of the churning of things. What I want you to be very, very aware of is you need to either externalize or you need to keep something with you that reminds you of what you're working on. And the easiest way to do that is to set up this discrete staging area. Maybe it's a table, maybe it's a whatever. Take what you're working on and put it on that area and work from there. work from there. All right. What I do, because I get caught in this as well. So I take something and I go to put it away. And that's when I notice that the drawer, all right, looks like a jumble sale. And I have to say to myself, okay, I will come back to you. I talk out loud. I talk out loud to myself and I can hear what I'm saying. When I hear what I'm saying, I now have more than one sense working on my behalf. All right. No, that's not the job. That's not what we're doing. We finish what we start. That's the other thing. Put a little note up for yourself. All right. Finish one thing at a time as you start. Externalize the message. Don't count on that poor beleaguered brain of yours to remember this when you're on the run. All right. Does that help at all, San? Okay, make it practical. So if I boil all that down, externalize. Externalize with a note. I have also, some people don't like to do this, but I have also written on my hand right here. Where is my hand? Right here. Focus. One thing at a time. All right, because we all get overwhelmed. The key is don't count on this. Take whatever you're working on to your discrete, separate staging area. It could be a little table this big. It doesn't have to be anything special. All right. It doesn't have to be anything special, but that's where you take things to sort them. Okay. All right. So, Suzanne, still having trouble getting rid of my school stuff, even though Suzanne is a retired teacher. As I think I will use some for my grandchildren, 1 to 3 years old. All right. I have a hard time with the books as I love them all and do use them with the 3-year-old, but there are too many and too many games, etc. I'm also tutoring a young girl and use some of the things. All of my school things feel like a 1, 2, 3 because I love teaching so much. That is the thing about teaching, Suzanne. There are certain jobs, certain professions that are less of a job and more of a calling, more of a vocation. And I think teaching is one of those. All right. Perfectly understandable, your commitment and your commitment to really good quality information. But if you recognize that you have too many books, too many games, too many of anything, take those in groups to your separate staging area and ask yourself realistically, how many of each do you need? All right, is useful. What I would suggest is that you see about either sending the extras, call your daughter or your daughter-in-law before you do this, all right, and send the extras to them. Or the next time you're giving a gift, all right, get one shelving unit that is doable in your space. And anything that is really great in your estimation and is in pretty good condition, all right, put those things on that shelving unit so that when it's time for a gift or it's time for a cheer me up or it's time for a granny check-in, all right, you can go there and choose from your shopping area. Shop there first. And it's perfectly okay to send your grandchildren a down memory lane gift. With a little note. I remember when I played this game with your mommy or your daddy, and he loved it. We had a lot of fun, and I hope you have fun with your mommy or your big sister or your younger sister. Give the legacy, all right? Do check with the parents before you start incoming of any of the extras, those, to make sure that they are well received. And there is nothing wrong with giving a secondhand gift if it's meaningful and it's in pretty good shape. All right. Nothing wrong with that at all. And I don't know if your grandchildren or your nieces and nephews, if you stay in contact with them, are a distance away. You're on Zoom right now. What about getting them to join you occasionally on Zoom and you read them a story? You read them a story from the book and then you mail them the book. All right. And then a little later on, they can read to you on a Zoom call. Many, many, many teachers, right, have way too much in the way of product or supplies when they retire. And part of that is the responsibility of the school system and the funding system, that so often teachers are buying supplies, all right, for their classrooms because budgets are so tight. The other thing that I did, my husband was a teacher. The other thing that we did was we took those things and called the local school. We were in a small town at that point, and asked them, would you be interested in looking at this and deciding if it's useful for any of your teachers? You could have an area in the school where you set up a table and the teachers come and they have a look at what would be useful. If it was useful for you and it genuinely, truly is useful, it may be useful for someone else as well. And there isn't a school, all right, except maybe right now with COVID, all right, but COVID won't last forever, where you can share the wealth. Okay. Secondhand gifts are great, particularly if there's a little note with down memory lane, something about it, remembering doing this with somebody. Okay. All right. You're passing on a treasure. All right. Silver. Yes, I feel overwhelmed with parting with clothes. I've had a lot of emails in the last 2 weeks about clothing. There must be something about our summer clothes coming out. And having to pack away those winter clothes again, which hopefully we don't need. But I think I can almost recognize where it started and where it comes from. So one of the messages today, we're talking about doing today, all right? It's interesting to know how something got started. It's important sometimes to know why we get stuck and why an idea replays in our head and gets in the way. All right. And that's important. What I'm really going to encourage you, though, to realize is while that's interesting and can be important so that you can see it coming, all right, so that you can predict on the next load of whatever it is that you're dealing with, you can understand where the relationship formed. But at that point, when you want to move forward and sort and thin things, it's interesting information, but it doesn't really change anything. All right? It doesn't change. It's a different stage in the process when you're saying, you know what? I love all of you, but some of you have to go, frankly, because there isn't room for me to sit down. There isn't room for me to have a meal with that isn't in my lap. All right. Or I'm going to trip over you little darlings that are so important to me. And then I'm going to end up falling, or heaven forbid, mice are going to burrow. All right. Because there's so much. Mice love to burrow. The more we have, the more nesting material we may be creating for visitors we didn't intend. So all that to say, history, good to know, doesn't change the future. All right. The future is an action stage. What I want you to primarily ask yourself right now when you're looking at clothing, or I don't care what it is, this is a universal question. You pick that thing up, pick one thing up at a time. Don't try to deal with piles. You've got piles, pick one thing out of the pile and look at it and go, are you me, Silver? Are you me, Silver, today, moving forward? Or are you who I used to be? All right. Would I be, first of all, am I able to wear it? So size might be important. Now, many people ask me, well, what about, like I haven't worn it in a year? Well, if the reason you haven't worn it in a year is because you happen to be a body type where your weight fluctuates rapidly, all right, easily. I'm sorry, I'm with you on this one. I don't care what anybody else says. One size up and one size down, as well as the size you are, makes perfect sense economically. But not every one of the things we buy one size up and one size down, all right, are me, are you, are something that we're just dying to get into again. And if you're not dying to get into it again, let it go. Somebody else is dying to get into it. Share it. Make room for tomorrow. Make room for tomorrow. What we have already is yesterday. If it's you today, moving forward, fine and dandy. But if it isn't 110% you today moving forward, let it go. Forgive yourself if you make a poor choice. I make poor choices all the time. All right. I'll look at a piece of clothing and I'll go, I really should have taken a picture of myself in that outfit because it wasn't what I thought it was. All right. Clothing can be expensive as well. It's an investment. All right. Somebody in the chat box is saying right now, I've sold some and passed on some materials to an aunt who's a teacher. Oh, she's talking about teaching materials. But even clothing, all right, it would have to be pretty expensive and pretty exceptional, all right, to try to sell it. All right. Be really careful that you don't promise away a lot of time and a lot of effort that you could spend having joy, fun, and play, being a learning, growing, developing human being, and facing the pile in front of you that is doable by holding on to things that are not extraordinary enough that you realistically should put the time and effort into taking them to sell. All right, really, really look at what the options are for redistribution or resolution. Okay. So important when it comes. So CJ Brown, so important when looking at items one at a time. It's hard to assign value. Looking at more items helps you decide importance. I'm not sure where that statement's coming from because generally when everybody I've ever met, when you're trying to handle a load of things, piles of things, taking and considering one thing at a time is the way to go. Now, whether that thing stays as far as, is it a 1, 2, 3? Can't imagine life without it. All right. I love that thing. You know those things. 7, 8, 9, 10. If something's got to go, it's probably going to be one of you. 4, 5, 6. if I could have enough room, I need to reconsider this. This is a harder choice. One at a time is how you assign the value. But I'm with you, CJ. I'm with you 100%. When you're deciding of a collection of things. So for instance, when I take my collection of tops, all right, I do each season, I do look at them. I determine what my relationship is one at a time. It takes that long. It's a visceral reaction. I don't go to my head and struggle with a lot of questions. All right. But when I'm trying to decide how many blue blouses do I actually need, it's slightly more difficult with white blouses, as I've shared with you in the past. How many pairs of black trousers, pants do I need? How many of this? How many of that do I need? All right. That's where pulling the collection together. All right. I realized, for instance, last season, I have one whacking load of black pants. Am I going to, how long do you have to live to wear that many black pants and have it useful? Like, really, Elaine? That's all you're going to wear is black pants? What about some of the others? And so what I did was I went through and I pulled out only all the number 1, 2, 3s in the black pants. I did the same thing recently with my cherished white blouses. So if you're really, I know, if it's really so great, if this white blouse is really so great, why aren't you wearing it? Why aren't you wearing it more often? And you know what? What purpose does it serve to stay hung up as a backup, as a second or third backup if you're a white blouse and me? All right. No, it's got to go. It's got to make room for tomorrow. So, yes, assign value 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, 10, 4, 5, 6. Do that one item at a time. And when you're deciding how many of something to keep, that's when you do put the collection together. It's a great idea. But when you're doing it, put them apart on your sorting area, your staging or sorting area. Do it there. Don't try to do it in the bundle, all right, in the pile. Don't try to do that. You'll waste so much more energy than you need to. Roberta, have multiples of items mixed in all over the place. So it's very hard to gather them to compare and thin out. End up pulling everything out and making more of a hopeless mess. Chicken and eggs. I know it feels like a chicken and egg, but here's the thing, Roberta. I think that the error in application, in doing, is that you have multiple things that basically constitute the same type, the same category, the same function. Hard to know when you say multiple items what you're talking to. Is it hammers and screwdrivers, or is it vases, or is it something else? Okay, so what I invite you to do is to set that staging area up in the center of a really easily accessible, but it's not in the middle of your living space so that you can't invite people in. All right, you'd be embarrassed by it. And then take groupings of whatever those items are and put them together and ask yourself, sit and ask yourself when you look at all of the recipe books, all of the recipe books, okay? And you say, okay, how many do I believe is reasonable? Understanding that there are recipes in this book that aren't in the other. Which ones have I used the most? Which ones are me, my taste, what I would cook for myself, what I would cook for others? What represents me today as I want to live. Put those together. The next little thing I want you to check against is, okay, and how much space do I have to house these? And will I be, if I keep ones I don't need that I haven't used in a very long time, all right, am I creating a domino effect of using up space that I actually need for something else more? Little example from my life. In my last house, I had a smaller kitchen than I have right now, but it was laid out differently. And I had a full ceiling to floor bookcase. Always wanted a bookcase in the kitchen with cookbooks. Yeah, and I must say that the James Beard and the Joy of Cooking, which I never had anything turn out from, okay, those I got because I felt a little bit of snob. It was sort of that momentary snob in me. Somehow I am somewhat of a better cook if I have James Beard's cookbook. I couldn't make a darn thing from James Beard. And I never had one thing turn out from the Joy of Cooking. No, not one thing. In fact, somewhere in a landfill is my pie crust. And it is exactly the same shape as it was when the guests dug the Asian pear out of it. And I looked from the living room at the dining room table and I saw 6 plates with pie crust like this. And I thought, I don't think that's a good sign. So I gave up on the joy of cooking. I gave up on being Julia Child. All right. I accepted my own limitations. And this time I use the internet and I use about 4 cookbooks that are tried and true. Clearly, they are designed for somebody who is my caliber of a cook. All right. And I've accepted that. So, what do you need to come to terms with? Because you can't be good at everything. So, clothing. Okay, yeah, darn. Leslie goes, darn, you're right. I can't be good at everything. Okay, whatever you apply that principle to is how you come to terms with your own limits. It doesn't matter whether it's cookbooks, it doesn't matter whether it's socks, it doesn't matter whether it's underwear, it doesn't matter whether it's clothing, vases, art, it doesn't matter. There are limits. Who are you today moving forward? All right. And how much space do you have for that collection of items? Because if you're not able to keep the things that you value the most stored and accessible, you don't have them just because they're in a pile somewhere. You don't actually have them. All right. And what will happen is what a few people this week have said to me that they've had to do: go out and get more because they couldn't find the ones they had, even though they knew they had them. If they're worth having, if you love them and use them the most, if you're proud of them the most, they need to be available and accessible, or you don't actually have them. There's no point in keeping them if they're stuck somewhere in a drawer, if they're stuck in a box because you don't have. Get that darn thing out and get it right front and center. Use it and enjoy it. And whatever you have to bump or domino out, do it. All right, do it. You've just cut the chaos and the self-recrimination, what you're saying to yourself that undermines you. You've just cut that down by 50%. Okay. Ottawa Girl. I wish they would call it trash or treasure to draw on the theme that when you're disordered, you may view something as being a treasure. without it truly being of any value at all. So Ottawa Girl, you know what determines its value? You. You determine the value. Somebody else looks at it and goes, junk. You know what? Unless it's contaminated, we'll have a different discussion if it is contaminated. It's good enough. It's great. If it pleases you, you are the only one you have to please. Doesn't matter what the price tag on the item is. And if you've made a mistake and you can't return the thing, all right, cut your losses, learn from it. Okay. Or you may have real treasures, but they're not being shown and enjoyed because you're drowning in your environment. That's true. That's true. But if you have, Ottawa Girl, if you have the perception that you're drowning in many of your possessions, in the abundance of your possessions, as you find those, as you identify them, you're not special. That's special. Or I can't get to special. You're not special. Take that darn thing and let it go. Okay. You don't have, sometimes we just make progress by bumping our head on something. We stumble upon it and go, like, I need 16 vegetable peelers. All right. Like, I need 4 toasters. Like, I need whatever it is you're saying to yourself, Ottawa Girl, that gives you the ability to say, I'm drowning in my own environment. Pick the darn thing up and let it go. Somebody else may actually need it. They may actually appreciate it. Yeah. And hoarders, you know, we all qualify for labels and there's no magic. And if being labeled a hoarder versus a genius versus a, I don't know what else, whatever other labels there are, hoarders is just a word. All right. And you're right. Nobody signs up and says, oh, I have a great achievement in life. And they use the word hoarder. All right. They don't. That's true. But that is a matter of judgment. That's a matter of someone else applying, judging what you're doing. If you have created a hoard, undo it. Undo it. We are all more than the labels that we qualify for. All right. Okay. And you're right. People don't understand the complexity. And if you're going to sign up for that Hoarders Canada, I want you to make sure that you have a guarantee from them in more than words. What are the safety measures that you're putting in place that I'm not going to be made to look bad, all right, for the world to see? Okay. Susan, is it an organization, not yourself, that the audiobook URL is with? Are you saying it's interactive? Yes. So when you get the audiobook of Conquer the Clutter, narrated in it is a website, and that website is exclusive to the audiobook. And yes, 98% of the, I think there's something like, I can't remember whether it's 42 or 32 tools and resources. 98% of them are interactive. About 50% of them are tabulatable live. They are all PDF downloadable, but don't download them. All right. Don't add to a pile of paper because you can go back to that website forever and you can track. Today was a good day. Today, not so good. I'm having difficulty with this. Ooh, I didn't realize I was at that level of safety or lack of it. All right. It's your friend. It's there to tell you how you're doing and help you track yourself in real time. So yes. Susan, if you need to take time off work to work on your clutter, do you recommend consecutive days or space them out? Or are consecutive days too much on our well-being? So when you say work on our clutter, take time off work to work on our clutter, first question I have for you, Susan, is how safe are you? All right. How safe are you? And If you don't meet the safety requirements for the safety corridor, so you from your front door to a second exit that is easily accessible close by the activity of daily living areas, if you don't have a minimum of 33 to 36 inches absolutely free and clear, you don't have to move anything. One way in, one way out. All right. Same thing to your heat source. Wherever your furnace is, within 2 to 3 feet around your furnace, nothing that is combustible. No wooden shelves. All right. No paper stored there. No paint stored there. No metal shelving stored in really close proximity to a heat source, like a fireplace, like your furnace, like your hot water tank. Because if anything misfires in that heat source, metal shelving will conduct heat, and it will conduct it far enough down that it could be a problem and cause an ignition. All right. The other thing too is if you're in a multi-unit dwelling or a multi-level dwelling rather, make sure that by nighttime, everything is off the stairs, because accidents don't happen when you're planning them. That's why they're called accidents. And you need to be able to get out. And I know everybody believes they will remember that stuff is on that side of the stairs. You won't, because you have 4 stress responses: fight, flight, fawn, or freeze. All right. And most people, after the shock, the freeze, hit flight. And what happens is your awareness goes from here, oh yeah, there's that table, oh yeah, there's that on the floor, I can step around it or over it, to this, right? You're not Superwoman. That will happen. And what this means is you see the way out and only the way out, and everything out is out of view. You're not aware of it. You have an adrenaline rush that is meant to get you out in an emergency. That's how accidents happen. All right. So make sure that the safety corridor, first and foremost, work on that. The other thing, to answer your question, if it's not about a safety corridor, I think what I would do is add a day before or after a weekend. All right. And pace yourself. Look at what your priority is. Is it clothing? Because now we're shifting our clothing. The winter clothing has to be put away. The summer clothing has to come out, right? Is it shoes because they're lying all over the place? Is it tools? What can you tell me, Susan, in the chat? Because I will go through this. We're going to go through this until all the questions, until they're all answered. So can you tell me what kinds of things the clutter? If it's paper, we've done, go to the podcast we did on paper, listen to that podcast. All right. There are certain things that I really recommend. I was talking to somebody that I was working with earlier this week. I really recommend that you batch. All right, because you need a different mindset to deal with those things efficiently and effectively. So clothing would be one thing. Household things would be another. All right. Paper. Do paper alone. Don't try to do paper while you're doing clothing. Paper has its own sets of rules as far as the questions you need to ask yourself. Pictures or memorabilia are another. So don't mix pictures with paper. All right. 2 different mindsets. But we've done a whole podcast on paper. Go back and listen. In fact, there's a video attached to it. Go back and listen to that. Okay. So add a day to either side and then pace yourself. One of those days, say Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday, one of those days should be whoop, whoop, out of jail. just for you. All right? Just for you. You got to fill the tank to have something to use to do work. And we all know sorting is work. Don't forget yourself. Do not operate by the principle, I can't enjoy myself until it's all done. This is not Saturday morning doing your jobs. You are allowed out of the house. All right. You are your own parent. You make your own rules. All right. Okay. Anything in excess is something to be avoided. Joan, still feel overwhelmed, no place to put anything, what to keep, what to let go. Whether you let the things go or not, Joan, that's up to you. All right. But you've got to get off that merry-go-round. All right. So sit today and just look at the things and decide. Are they 1, 2, 3? Can't imagine life without it. They're precious to you. 7, 8, 9, 10s, I probably, there's a lot of that. I'm not sure I need all of that. And the 4, 5, 6s, well, there are some decisions to make. What to keep and how much of each. Eyeball it first. Eyeball it first. In fact, while you're eyeballing it, why don't you get some colored stickers, all right, and put colored stickers on them. Green is go. That's the 7, 8, 9, 10s because they can go. Red is stop. We're keeping that. Yellow is something in between. Start that way so that you get off that merry-go-round. Just can't get started. Okay. So not being able to get started is a complex thing. Even when you tell yourself that you can't get started, here's a question I want you to ask yourself, okay? All right. The question is this. You can't? Don't look at what you can't. Are you overestimating what you need to do? Are you over expecting yourself to accomplish the job? You're looking at the vast amount of stuff you have to decide about. And because you're looking at it all, it feels insurmountable. It isn't. Those piles are made up of one thing at a time. And I respectfully suggest, CJ, that if you're telling yourself, I can't, that's why you can't. Change what you're saying to yourself. Pick up one thing at a time and say, what can I do? Because no matter what state of mind we're in, if we are still breathing, we can do something, one small thing at a time. And that may be your way out of this. But if you're telling yourself you can't, then that is the meaning you're applying to it, and it will stop you in your tracks every time. Change what you're saying. Okay, I don't feel I can. Feelings aren't facts. Feelings aren't facts. They're the way I feel, but that is not fact. What can I do? And that day, do what you can do. Then take a break. Don't forget to take breaks. If you don't put energy in, you don't have any energy to do the work you're demanding of yourself. And yes, even with depression, all right, even if a good part of the day you feel like you need to be in bed, what can you do? When you get out of bed, what is the point in sitting there and looking at stuff and beating yourself up? What point is that? That's self-punishment. Pick up one thing and ask yourself, how would my life change? Don't pick up the 1, 2, 3s, okay? Pick up something else and go, how would my life change if I let you go? And if it's not a 1, 2, 3, let it go. It's part of what's weighing you down. Just the looking at it day after day after day, it must feel like those things are going to you. No, pick it up. How would my life change if I let you go? Let it go. Do yourself a favor. Okay. Oh, and it's CJ, the other thing too about ping-ponging, don't ping pong from one room to another. Like I do 5% in this room and 5% in this room, 5% in this room. Pick the priority tasks, all right, that are the biggest problem to you. Safety first, health second, happiness in order. All right. If you don't have any of those problem areas, pick the things that cause you the most chaos. All right. And work on one thing until you finish it. One thing finished is better than 10 things started, because you've got nothing to look at to validate yourself and say, that took a lot out of me to do that. But look at this. And the other thing, if you find that ping-ponging is something you really have to fight against, I would start there are a number of ways to do it, all right? But I would suggest that for a while at least, you start in one corner of a room and you work strategically, moving forward through that room along the wall. Why? Because the way you phrase that tells me you may be at high risk, that when you go back and look at what you put the energy into, you've got nothing to show for it. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to go back to things that are not telling me, yippee, I did that. It's done. 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 So start in one corner and work strategically. What you're talking about is the hummingbird method. Flip, 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 a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here. I think you want to be much further along and be able to validate your efforts. I think that's going to give you a whole lot more. And yes, there's a lot more to come, but that's done. Okay. Let me see. I'd like Elaine to guide me through on which areas would be prioritized. Where, so I think this is CJ. What's bugging you the most? If you're safe, all right, what's bugging you the most? Is it the kitchen? Because the kitchen, the bathroom, the bedroom, front hall, back hall, entrance and egress routes, those are the areas of high activities of daily living. All right, what's bugging you the most? The other thing I want to kind of put on the table, and I know this is a lot, but so you're going to be working at that one area, one corner, and you're going to be gradually working along reclaiming space. Okay, good. In any one of those areas, all right? The other thing that is really, really important, though, is that if you handle today, what belongs to today, then you are not creating the never-ending story. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm saying that when you take the cream out of, or the milk out of the fridge, all right, put it back. When you finish that carton of whatever, put it in recycling. When you finish meals, now I am entirely at the other end of the spectrum from the Fly Lady. I think she's got great advice, but I don't agree with her on this. And that is, I think that we all need a little bit of a little leeway in our life, in our day, just to be able to take into consideration it may not be the best day. All right. And so dishes, for instance, scrape to get the food off and stack them. Don't leave them lying all over the place. And stack them in the sink, not in soapy water. That is the third lie. You know, the checks in the mail. Yeah. Well, and the other one, well, that's the third eternal lie. We're soaking this thing. No, we're not actually soaking that thing. If you were soaking a fry pan, you'd have it water or soap or something in it, and it would be on the stove, right? Take your dishes, scrape them, get a jar, something about that big, soapy water in there. Take your cutlery and put it in. All right. Use the sink. And when at the end of the day or the beginning of the next, wash the dishes, start again. Much better that they're stacked in the sink than that, and not just haphazard. I'm not talking throw them in the sink. I'm talking scrape them, plates on plates, big ones at the bottom so that you get the maximum fill. All right. Your glasses, your cups, they go standing up in the sink. Your cutlery goes in something that will allow whatever's on it to be soft enough to wash. And when that sink is full, do the dishes. If you're not good at doing the dishes, do them once a day, once every 2 days, depending on, but scrape the food off of them if you don't want to be attracting vermin or flies or fruit flies. Who needs another problem? We don't. Okay, let's have a look here now. Okay. I feel proud of myself when I get rid of things. Carrie, you should feel proud of yourself when you just get up. You have said that you're living with depression. It may be congenital. It may be hereditary. We inherit our neurology. All right. None of us comes into life without burdens, really. All right. And so whatever burden we carry, you be proud of yourself when you get out of bed. You be proud of yourself when you stand up. You don't need to get rid of anything to be proud of yourself. All right. That's work. That's work. All right. Whatever burden you carry, whatever temptations you live with, every day you put yourself first, and happiness, a little bit of happiness, a little bit of joy, a little bit of fun, a little bit of play, a little bit of reminding yourself, I may be stuck in this area, but I am getting better in this area. And then there's the boring old work. Okay. We don't prove ourselves through work. All right. But don't let the burden of the work get you down either. The more you tell yourself you can't, the more you make yourself identify one thing that you can do, and you whip its butt. All right. You never let it win. You never let it win. You're afraid of something. Slowly, with support, you face that down. All right. You face it down. Okay. So let's have a look here and see where we are. All right. All right. So we've got Hafsa's correction of Hoarders Canada. Thank you, Hafsa. Lisa, there's no URL in the chat right now. There is no URL. www.hoarderscanadacasting.com. I think that's a URL. And then the https:// www.facebook.com// oh, there seems to be a dot in there. Hoarders Canada. Okay.
That's the one I was referring to, and I believe that's what she's going to correct.
The dot after the forward slash?
Yeah.
Could be my eyes. Yeah.
No, that's the one I was mentioning in my comment.
Okay. 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 What did Hafsa put? Yeah, there's a dot. Hafsa, can you double, triple check that from Pam's message? I thought I saw a dot there, but if it's not, let's make sure that before we leave today, we've got the correct one. Okay. Okay. Am I right in thinking that there probably isn't a dot after the slash? Well, you know, it's kind of weird that there would be a dot. I know that, but Hafsa's going to double check it. You're right. You're right, Carrie. Hafsa corrected. There is no dot. I'm seeing dots now, people. Okay, I don't know what that means. Okay. Thanks for being such an excellent advocate for the cause. I would hate to see the show progress in some of the ways we've seen. Well, then you call them and you tell them that. You call them and you tell them that. All right, because when a Canadian show is going to pick up the franchise, isn't quite the right word, but I don't have another word for it. And the formula has been set. Sometimes that's dictated. All right. And good people are trying to create this show in Canada. I've been talking to them. I'm working with them. They're good people. They need to hear that, Ottawa Girl. They need to hear that from everybody. All right. They need to blast it on their Facebook page that we need to set an example for progress in the ways we've been portrayed, where candidates are exploited or dramatic value, in maybe even just in the editing. All right, maybe not in the programming, maybe in the editing. Without an ounce of education or compassion. And warm fuzzy is not compassion. Okay, warm fuzzy, a soft tone is not necessarily compassion. Okay, I want you to get that message out there. I want you to blast them because they're good people and they need to know. Okay. So when you say one thing at a time, do you mean one room at a time, or can it be one thing in that room? I would say one thing in that room, but safety first. Safety first. That is the one exception. All right. You've got to get that safety corridor and you have to maintain that safety corridor. All right. And then pick the category that is causing you the most chaos. Pick that. Take it to your staging area, all right, and contain it. So maybe you only have a half hour. Maybe you only have 10 minutes. Don't take a ton of clothes if you're only going to have 10 minutes. Take a bundle. And the other thing too, if you really want to make decisions, not just about what to hang up, all right, if you really want to make decisions, whatever you're deciding, put it together. Put the pants with the pants, put the tops with the tops, put the socks with the socks, put the undies with the undies, put the casual with the casual, put the good with the good. All right. And make meaningful choices. Make meaningful choices with that energy that you're spending. Make it count. All right. All right. Yes, Carrie, it's a good idea. Short timers on my smartwatch or cell. Absolutely. And when that bell goes off, woo-hoo, we're out of jail. This is our time. All right. Absolutely. Because do you know how they build the pyramids? You know how they built them? They built them one stone at a time. Each of those stones was a ton. They built it. And that is enduring. That has enduring results. And you know what gives it enduring results? The fact that you have it up here, that you've taught yourself to do that, that you've reinforced that, that you have habituated that. It's what you learn yourself, not just what you do with your hands. All right? Okay. School stuff, Claudia, is my kryptonite too. I feel like I want to log what lessons, activities I did each year as well. I rarely reference them each. But Claudia, so help me understand that. You want to log what you did each year. My granddaughter bought me a t-shirt that I swear I'm going to wear to this podcast. And it says, don't look back. You aren't going that way. Don't look back. You aren't going that way. It's done. It was either a huge success. Great. It still was a huge success. The fact that you remind yourself of it or you keep evidence, lots and lots of evidence. Don't track your past. Okay? Build your future. Look forward. If you need some mementos, you know, that trophy, that whatever, or that thing that is a trophy to you, that's fine. Don't look back. You're headed forward. All right? And the other thing too is, you know, if you want to look back, maybe learning from our mistakes is also important. Not just keeping evidence of our achievements, but how we learn from our mistakes, right? That's part of the past. Are we tracking that? Well, apparently we're storing it. No, don't store it. Let it go. It's not you today. I have a bunch of friends who are retired teachers. Okay, Carrie. Most have been able to get rid of old teaching aids by donating. But the donating is important because some of those products are useful to teachers today, and they don't have any more money in their budget than the teachers who have the things to offer. I thought she was talking to me. I'm a retired with a 3-year-old grandson, Suzanne. See, Suzanne? I did not give that question out there, but it does fit every teacher. Every teacher. Okay. It's very, very rare with the search for supplies, the search for really good lessons and material. And teachers who retire, they leave it for each other when they retire in the school. Okay. I'm still teaching, and when I started, I bought everything, and I think I still have the fear that one day I'll need them. But in reality, the school I'm at now is very fiscally responsible and distributes resources adequately for my needs over the past 6 years. Well, that is great, Claudia. That is great. So share the ones you have. Keep the jewels and pass on the others, because they may be jewels to somebody else, and you're never going to be able to find them. All right, you're never going to be able to find them, or the storage of them is going to occupy what you need meaningfully today for your life. Okay. All right. Donate clothing for tax write-off. Donate clothing, Leslie. I'm not familiar with that for a tax write-off. How does that work? Do you want to, yeah, go.
We, for instance, have resale shops here. We have one run by the National Council of Jewish Women. My mother was president of it for 86 million years. You donate clothing to it, they give you a piece of paper with a tax write-off, and you take it to your accountant at the end of the year.
Okay, so I think in Canada, they need to be an accepted registered charity to do that. Okay.
Probably here too, and they are. They have a resale shop.
Okay. Okay. So get on your phone around, find out who is an accepted registered charity. And if you're going to donate, do your best to either have them pick it up or get your things to them and get that write-off. Great idea. Great idea, Leslie. From a new place. Oh, and I'm starting to get anxious about how much stuff I have. I just can't seem to get rid of any substantial amount of things. Carrie, do you want to, you've said that a few times. Do you want to unmute yourself? What kinds of things are you having difficulty deciding about?
Everything. I've been trying to make a list, and I just made a comment that it's not so much that I have many of one thing, but I have one of many things.
Okay,
And that is part of the problem. And I
okay.
just seem to get stuck.
So
You know,
is it that these things represent interests, or they represent things that you need? And are they large items that occupy a lot of space?
I think it's just the sheer number.
Okay.
Crafts is something I've written that I have to go through. Shoes, health and beauty, my daughter is really particular about her hair, so if she buys a shampoo and she doesn't like it, I get the shampoo. Things like that. Paper, books, tools, costume jewelry. I've gotten rid of some of that. Loads of kitchen gadgets and things. But because most of my stuff is in storage, I have an indoor storage unit where all my furniture and stuff is stored. And I need to get rid of some of it because it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to afford an apartment per se, but maybe a studio or a bachelor, and I'm not going to have room for all of it.
Maybe the thing to do is to do a little mental exercise first, because you don't know. You can't know the answer before the situation arises. Okay, you can't. I mean, that's just not realistic. What if you were to sit down and draw a floor plan of a bachelor apartment, a studio apartment, and then sit back and close your eyes and imagine what you have in storage, and of those things, because you're still going to want to do particular things. You're still going to want to have people over. You're still going to want to maybe have a sleepover with grandchildren. I don't know what age they are, but you're still going to want to do those things. You're going to want to cook. You're going to want to do some crafts. How much space would you have? All right. So rather than worry about the volume of things fitting in the small space, start imagining your life in any smaller space and what is key to you. Crafts can be a bugaboo, all right? And one of the things that I really encourage people to do is when they're thinking about crafts, and I know people who are heavily committed to crafts, the product that is part of those crafts is enough to choke a horse. All right. And so have one project that you're working on and one in the wings. All right. And the product for that. And the tools can be, the tools can usually be managed. It's the product, right? It's the books, it's the magazines, yeah. But that information, with very few exceptions, that information is available currently or better on the internet. That's another thing that you can do. You got a computer? Get yourself an external hard drive.
Yeah.
All right, and start with your phone taking pictures of things that are particularly important. And then when you're using it, access it from the hard drive, the external hard drive. All right, a lot of people do that. Recipes with their recipe books. Your family wants to buy you a Christmas present or a birthday present. Have them give them some of the things that you really, really, really like, and you're not going to have room for it, and have them scan it. Have them, it doesn't cost them anything to scan it. Gosh, Joe Blow printer does scanner, fax, it does everything but make the coffee these days. Have them scan the stuff for you. Have them buy you an external hard drive. You'd be surprised. You would be surprised. I did that one time with a research scientist. Who am I to tell him his research, like rooms and rooms of it wasn't important.
Right.
All right. I had a lawyer one time who had, gosh, I think it was 300 of those. You took the slides and you put them in the slides and they went around.
Gosh.
I got about
Yeah,
300 of those. All right. Well, guess what? One external hard drive and somebody scanning those pictures of every holiday he ever took, which was important to him.
Sure.
All right. There's always a way around it, Carrie. Always, always, always find it. And you can't afford to do that? Say, look, next time you're giving me a Christmas gift, next time it's a birthday gift, next time you want to give me advice on what I should be doing here, how about you spend your time doing this? Scan this for me. Give them a job. That'll keep them quiet. Yeah. The opinions won't be coming in such great numbers if you give them a job. Okay. Let me have a look here now. Okay. My niece has a group of friends who get together in spring, fall, and everyone brings clothing they're willing to part with, and all of them go into a pile. Teenagers do that. Have you ever had a teenager come home with something you never bought them and they're trading clothes and then they get them back? Great idea. Freebies are a huge problem for me. Okay. So freebies, the shampoo, for instance. All right. So if your daughter likes to try things, or whoever likes to try things, and then they give you the others, say no thanks. If you didn't like it, chances are I won't. And when I need it, I'll let you know. And the next supply that you're rotating, I'll take it then. It's not like that trait of hers is ever going to change. And just because you may be financially strapped, Carrie, doesn't mean that you have to take the leftovers of everybody else. All right. You don't have to be grateful, like somehow, no. No. Okay. All right. Wendy, I struggle with checking things over too carefully and it leads to taking so much time to get through a lot of stuff, becomes overwhelming, accomplishing practically nothing. This is okay, understanding how individuals, in particular on the shows, can go through things so quickly and being comfortable with that, having no regrets. What's your advice? So Wendy, I don't know you at all, so please don't take this as gospel. However, when you say I struggle with checking things over too carefully, that tells me there may be a vulnerability to perfectionism. All right. And so perfectionism, maybe we need to do a podcast just on perfectionism, because the truth is, Wendy, there is no right answer and there is no wrong answer. That's the truth. There's no right answer. How does it suit you? These are your things. You're deciding it. What do you love the absolute most, and how many of them will fit in the space you have? That's the answer. All right. And when you keep adding layers to consider and consider and consider and consider, that's like taking out an insurance policy. Even an insurance policy, even on your life, only covers so many things. All right. Maybe you're trying to put too many balls in the air. All right. So I don't know whether you have been part of this community long enough to know about a book that I recommend everybody get. And you can get it in audiobook as well. And that is Procrastination Okay, and How You Can Stop Now by Dr. Jane Burka. She's a PhD, and Dr. Lenora Yuen, Yuen. Burka, Burka. Do yourself a favor, get a copy from the library, all right, and read the darn thing, all right? Read it from cover to cover. It'll be the best time you ever spent. And it's going to talk to you about procrastination and why. Procrastination is not the failure to do something, all right? It actually is a choice, and it's a choice to avoid the repercussions of the fear of making mistakes that you will regret. And I have news for you. On the shows, nobody is making decisions that quickly without having a coach. Nobody is. That probably is really good editing. All right. And when you're starting out, you only want to make decisions that you can live with. Otherwise, in the beginning, if you don't do that, you are likely to, well, bog yourself down, but replace the things because of regret. All right. Okay. So we'll also do a podcast at some point on decision making. Okay. All right. Recipe books. External hard drive. Oh, I can't bring it up. Where is it? Where's my external hard drives? I got two of them. External hard drive. Scan all of the recipes. All right. You have a tablet, you have a computer, you can put that up on your computer or your tablet. Yeah, exactly. 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 All right. And it's right there. In fact, as your eyes start to fail, you can expand it. Yep, there's the external hard drive. Good for you. Good for you, Carrie. They are worth their weight in gold. All right. Roberta, I could have multiples of woodworking tools squirreled around the house in various locations, not just in the garage. Take all of your tools, Roberta. Take all of your tools, all right, and get yourself, I know you've got shelving in your garage, all right. Put all the tools in one place, all right, and then figure out how many of each you have and pick the absolute special ones and house them. The other tools, one of the things that we did when we downsized was we gave extras that we have, or, you know, one that is so special you use it once in 100 years. We gave it away, but then we can borrow it back if we ever need it. All right. Okay. Give it to somebody for Christmas or their next birthday. The most beneficial thing she said to me was to look at my space as expensive real estate. Expensive real estate. It's true. All right. The space we have in our environments is valuable real estate. Why? Because it is either going to support us or it's going to make us sick. And we want it to support the life we want to have. And none of you are doing crafts or art or music or anything 100% of the time. So those things should not logically occupy a greater percentage of valuable real estate. While those things are remaining accessible, what do you want and need and love that can't remain accessible? The 1, 2, 3s are the things that should get the valuable real estate. Give it to them first. Okay. You can get lost in the process. Take a break. That's why I want you to set your timer. No more than 15 minutes at a time when you're getting started. And I know you're on a roll at the end of 15 minutes and you believe you will come back to it, but you won't. If it was hard to get started, 15 minutes at a time, pace yourself. That way, when you think about, I should be doing more, and you think about it, you haven't created a mountain that you say to yourself, oh, I thought I'd die when I finished. I was like, oh, I can't go back to that. You can always, you can do anything for 15 minutes. That's why I chose 15 minutes. Okay. Okay. All right. I used to be organized and I could find stuff. Then illness. Couldn't maintain the stuff and now I can't find what I need easily. Okay, Claudia. So if you ever could in the past, I have news for you. You can in the future. If you could ever do it, you can do it now. One baby step at a time. Don't say what you can't do. Say what you can do. All right. And never minimize it. Everything done is better than thinking about it and planning it. That's the first stage. But once you start, hands on, do what you can. In Canada, you can rarely donate material items for things. Maybe no, we can. There just aren't as many places, I think, that offer tax receipts, but some do. Some do. It's offensive, the word hoarder. It's just a word. It's just a word, Wendy. It has taken on a connotation. You know, let's change the H to B, border. You could make that a derogatory term too. You could change any of the letters. It's just a word. All right. And labels don't fit people. Labels are shortcuts. All right. In Canada, Michelle's, okay, to everyone. In Canada, more and more Afghan and Ukrainian refugees are coming. They'll need a lot of household items. Kitchenware, even cookware or two, as well as furniture, clothing for adults and children. That's true. I have, oh gosh, I wish I'd taken a picture of it. I got 2 Ukrainian flags with half Ukrainian, half Canadian. And they're out on the front pergolas of the front of my house saying, we stand united with the Ukraine. Absolutely. So let's put our money where our mouth is. All right. The things that are extra that we really think we're going to need or that whatever, how about sharing? You see those pictures of what people have fled. All right. And there's no guilt involved here. No guilt. All right. But all of those things we're struggling with, we can share those. We can share those. All right. Okay. So Leslie, if you're in the States, Leslie is in St. Louis. There are congregations that are sponsoring Ukrainian families. All right. And I know there will be in Canada as well. We have always had a very robust, welcoming principle. Let's get behind the Ukrainians. Let's look at those extras. All right. My goodness. You know, they're escaping, barely escaping with their lives. They will be traumatized. They will have left all the treasures that they had behind. All right. Surely out of a kind and generous heart, we can share the extras that we have and maybe do without 1 or 2 things that we really, truly believe we need as an insurance policy, because we may set sometime. And I'm sure they do crafting. I'm sure that they are artistic. I'm sure that their children like books. I'm sure that they will homeschool until they learn the language. All right. All of those materials, my goodness, all of those materials. All right. All right. Well, I think we're going to have to end it here. We have 28 messages and we're at, rinse quickly after a scrape. No numbers on it. This is, I have trouble with it. Okay. So, so we're down to 12:02 when JP to everyone. And we're going to pick it up from there and we're going to continue those in the next podcast. The next one will be a Q&A as well. I'll try to include, I'll read them in advance and try to include some thoughts, maybe do a little video or something on an aspect. So if there's something you want to know, maybe I can do a little video on it. And we can add a practical kind of demonstration as well. Okay. Don't forget about the Hoarders Canada if you're interested, but make sure that you interview them as much as they interview you. Good. Now we got 32 new messages. Woot, woot. All right, everybody, I'm going to let you go. What can you do today? Okay. And who can use those things that you're struggling with that are extras? Okay. Make somebody else happy today too. Okay, share the wealth. Take care, everybody.
Can you